elevated desire. Elevated desire. Now, one of the reasons why your discernment can be dulled, which leads to you settling for less, is elevated desires. Now, that simply put means you enthroning your desire above God, making your heart deaf to God's voice and your eyes blind to God's ways. I'll say it again. Elevated desire is you enthroning your desires above God, making your heart deaf to God's voice and your eyes blind to God's ways. You see, when you pray with your heart stayed on your desire, what do I mean? There's some of us that pray and we are praying to our desires because we have enthroned our desires above God. So when we are praying, we no longer look at God praying, we look at the desires. Now, a sure marker to know that you're actually praying to your desire is the number one, you are afraid. You are afraid that it won't even happen. Number two, you are worried. Your anxiety spikes. That's a marker to show that you are actually praying, or you're actually putting or setting your eyes on your desire and not God. And so when your desire sits on the throne, you make God an option. And when God is an option, it dulls your discernment. And I can tell you categorically, setting your desires on the throne is the wrongest thing to do, because desire being in charge of your life, it's a wicked taskmaster. You can't allow it sit on the throne. It will get you scared. It will get you worried. It will get your BP high. You know, never make God an option. Never set your desire on the throne. Now, notice, right? Notice that when you have prayed for a while and there is no direction, I mean, everything is foggy, everything is confusing, okay? And remember, God is not a God of confusion. And so everything is confusing, it's foggy, it's, no direction in that area. More often than not, you've elevated your desire. You've elevated your desires. Your heart is stayed on, it's either I get this or nothing. It's either I get this or nothing. And you know what that does? It blocks out the voice of God. You're not able to see the clear path that God has charted for you. Now you'd ask, how do you dethrone that desire? One way to actually dethrone the desire is to be able to walk away without it. When you ask God for that thing, be sure that you can do without it. I mean, when you treat your desire like an option, oh yes, when you treat your desire like an option, you dethrone it. And then you give room to allow God, you give room to God to show you the right path. Let me give an example so you would understand. In Daniel 3, the king said that everyone should bow down. King Nebuchadnezzar, he said everyone should bow down to, his statue, or will face the punishment of fire. And there were 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they didn't. They didn't. And when it was told to Nebuchadnezzar, he called them. And they replied him, they said, oh no, we are not careful in this matter. It's not like we blabbed to them differently and we're coming to tell you something different. We're not careful in this matter. We are not going to bow down to anything. And even if you put us in the fire, God is able to save us. But even if he doesn't save us, it's okay. But we wouldn't bow down to anything less than our God. Did you see that they desired to live? Yes. But they treated that desire like an option. I mean, I'd rather die than bow down or than settle for less than what God had. They couldn't see themselves bowing down to a statue. As in how? When there is a God in heaven. So that desire, the desire to live was an option. Yes, God will save us. But even if he doesn't save us, no problem. Because desire will bring you to a point of doing what you are not meant to do. You can imagine if they so desired to live, they loved their lives. I mean, who doesn't? But imagine if they kept that desire in their heart, oh, want to live. Okay, it's not just bowing down. Let's bow. No. They said no. We'd rather bow. We'd rather die, than bow down to you. And more often than not, God always comes through for those kind of people. Okay? For those who never put him as an option. James 1:14 clearly states what desire does to you. Desires can entice you and drag you away from the truth. Yes, let me read it. James chapter 1, verse 14 to 15. But each one of you is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. Then, when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. Okay? And sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. So imagine if the boys didn't treat their desires as an option, their desire to live as an option. They could have sinned by going against the mitzvah that said, do not bow down to any other God except the Almighty Adonai. Okay, so your elevated desires can cause you to settle for less. Now, a long time ago, I was praying to God for something, and I found out that as I was praying, I was worried. I was worried. I then asked God. I said, Lord, why am I praying and worried? Like, is there any? I didn't understand because I was worried. I was afraid. And God said, that's because you've enthroned your desire. You're actually praying to your desire and not praying to me. Your eyes are not on me. And I didn't understand the meaning then. I was like, okay, Lord, can you explain further? He says, when you set your heart on your desire, when you set your eyes on your desire, you are actually blocking out my voice. You are blocking out, you are blinding your eyes from seeing the path I am setting for you, and you can't have peace with that. Desire as a master isn't a good one. All right. And then I asked the Lord, okay, how do I do this? How do I go about this? And he says, dethrone it. And I asked how. He said, treat your desire like an option. Make sure you can do without what you're asking me for. Instead of shifting me or pushing me out of the picture, do without what you're asking me for. Check yourself. Can you do without? If I don't give you this, will you still trust me? Will you still love me like you say? Will you still commune with me like you do? And when he said it, I began to pray and say, Lord, have mercy for setting my desire on the throne. And then I was like, Lord, let your perfect will be done in this matter. You know me. You know every day of my life. So let your perfect will be done. If you don't answer this one, if it doesn't come the way I want it, it's okay. I'm okay. Provided I have you, I really can't do without you. And when I said it, when I made that prayer, because God said it, you've got to mean it from your heart. It can't just be, word of mouth. And I deeply meant what I said. And it was like peace flooded my whole being. I became excited. I became, when I was praying, in fact, my prayer it felt like I was tying myself to something. But once I said, Lord, let your perfect will be done, I trust you either ways, I felt free. I felt happy. And then God said, he quoted the scripture to me, acquaint now thyself with thee, and peace will come to you. And then good will come, and I went to the scripture and I saw it in Job chapter 22, verse 21. When you submit to God, peace will come to you. And like I said in the last video, if you've not watched it, please go and watch it. I said, the sure marker to know that good is coming, you will have peace. You'd have peace. But desire never gives you peace. When desire is on the throne, you never have peace. So this is why it's so important to be in communion with God, so that you can discern rightly what God's plans are for you.